Hi, great. This is going to be the lesson on how to create bar graphs in Excel. Generally, in psychological research, the only kind of graphs we use are going to be bar graphs and line graphs, and this lesson will be on how to create bar graphs in Excel, and there'll be another one on line graphs later. So the first thing we'll do is we have to imagine what our possible groups are. So let's say we want to look at the difference between men and women on some variable. Let's say our dependent variable, just so we have it written down, is going to be performance on math problems. And we give men and women a test, and we find that on the math test, men tend to perform, let's say, slightly better than do women. It's not a large effect, it doesn't look very large, but they appear to be larger. And let's say that this is based on a statistical analysis of some sort. All we'll do to create a graph is we're going to highlight these four boxes, the two condition names and the number names. We're going to insert column, and we're going to click on two-dimensional column. We do not do three-dimensional. They're much harder to look at, so always do two-dimensional columns. And we're just going to click on that, and we now have our bars, our y-axis, and our x-axis. But none of this has been labeled yet. When we only have one variable, then we don't really need this series. We can get rid of that. If we go up here to chart layout, it's going to have a bunch of different options for what things we can have listed here. And I tend to like this one down here. It lets us have our axis title, or x-axis title, which will be participant sex. And this can be our y variable, which can be score on math test. And then we can delete that, and now we have our graph. If you want to change with the colors, we can click on different colors up here. You can also click directly on the color or the bar and click on the fill, and then we can have a solid fill. We can choose what colors we want to make it. We can do the same thing over here. Okay. We can delete the insides. You can manipulate the graph pretty easily. Now let's say we have an additional variable. Let's say, rather than just saying that men and women perform differently, let's imagine the following experiment. This has been a well-replicated phenomenon. Men and women are brought into the room to take a test, and on this test, some people take the math test, and that's it. Other people, right before taking the math test, are asked to fill out a demographic question asking what is the sex of the person taking the test. So we have our control condition, and we have our sex salient condition. In other words, when we have made participants' sex salient. And let's say the data shows up as follows. Men and women get basically the same score in the control, but in the sex salient condition, women perform somewhat less successfully. And this is referred to as stereotype threat. When members of a disadvantaged, when members of a stereotyped group in a particular performance domain are reminded of their membership in that group, they tend to underperform. This is a major topic in the social psych literature. Let's say I want to graph this, however. I now want to highlight all of my data as well as both variable names. I'm going to go back up into Insert. I'm going to choose Column and Two-Dimensional Column, and I'm going to get this graph. I can go back up here. I can choose the one that allows me to have my titles. I have now score on math test. My axis now is a different title. It's the manipulation of sex salience. And I have men and women here. Now, if you want, you can click on this and you can move the legend anywhere you want. So it's now at the top. We can still get rid of the middle. If you want to switch, if you want men here and women here, and you want the color of the bars to be, whether it's in the control or sex salient, all we're going to do is we're going to click on Switch Row and Column Data. And now we've switched from men and women to control and sex salient. Notice, however, that the axis title has remained the same. So now we have to change this to participant sex. And to simply move this into a Word document, you're just going to copy this and paste it into a Word document. This is how you make a chart in Excel.